I was a nurse by trade, so when I was about 25, I was spending probably 20 days a month, sometimes more, flying all over the world, bringing sick people home for travel insurance companies. We started servicing the Defense Base Act clients. We brought on one of the largest security companies in the world.
The nature of your work, like it deals with people being injured, vulnerable, and far from home. What's the hardest part of carrying that responsibility?
If every time you saw a crisis or every time you saw a tragedy that you weren't able to perform, then being an emergency room nurse is probably not the career for it. If I'm not managing the company well, those that are working under me don't have the direction that they need in order for us to succeed as well. If you want it to grow into something that's meaningful, no one gets there without work. That this get rich quick and, life is easy, it's a complete fallacy. That if you're not willing to put in the work and the long hours and raise a company like you would raise a child, you're never going to see success.
Big dreams don't come quietly. They demand risk, they demand fire, they demand crazy transformation. Welcome to The Corporate Life, hosted by Hina Siddiqui, CEO and founder of Corporate Influence Media and creator of the Let's Make You Famous 90-Day Celebrity Campaign and media strategist featured across 600 plus global outlets. Join us as we sit with million-dollar entrepreneurs, tech CEOs, and celebrities who share the scenes that shape them. Here, success isn't a headline. It's a human story. The turning points, reinventions, failures, breakthroughs, and bold decisions behind their rise. Because your life is a movie too, and you're the star of yours.
Every life is a movie, and not every movie is loud and fancy. Some stories are built in moments of pressure when things go wrong. My guest today is Ryan Hawley, CEO of Odin Industries, a company working quietly behind the scenes in some of the most high pressure situations imaginable. When employees are injured far from home, when legal, medical, and logistical systems collide across borders, when decisions need to be made calmly, quickly, and correctly, that's where his work lives. In this conversation, we don't just talk about business, we talk about the man behind it, how this path shaped him, what leadership costs when lives are involved, and what this chapter of his movie is really about. This is Ryan Hawley, and this is his movie. Ryan, when we are kids, we often think that when we grow up, we'll become this. Did you ever think that you would become a business person or an entrepreneur while you were a child?
Now, while I was a kid, I had always dreamed about being a firefighter. And, as I progressed through school, jobs in firefighting were few and far between. And it was actually my stepfather that pushed me to become a nurse. That I was looking, at options outside of firefighting. He was a paramedic, so I had applied to a couple of schools for that. And I got accepted into a university program to earn my Bachelor of Science in Nursing. And he's the one that pushed me for nursing. He said, their hours are better. They get paid more. You'll come out of school with a degree. Why don't you give that a try? And I did probably the first 3 years of studies. Did very well grade-wise, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. But as I said, I graduated, top of my class and had first choice of your consolidation, which is the intense training that they do at the end of a nursing program to sort of direct you to whatever specialty you want to be in. And I picked emergency. And that was sort of the first time during my schooling that it clicked. The adrenaline and the rush of being in the emergency room was something that, settled well with my personality, and it's brought me to a number of avenues in the world that I could have never imagined had I not followed his advice.
Yeah. So tell us about Odin Industries, like what all you do there.
Sure. So Odin, I started in 2020 after leaving my previous company. So as I said, I was a nurse by trade, started in the emergency room. I had a Filipino charge nurse by the name of Klitna Tandito that used to wow me with his stories of his world travel doing international travel nursing. And he worked in a private jet like a Lear 35 and flew to all these crazy places. And I bugged him until he got me a job. So when I was about 25, I was spending probably 20 days a month, sometimes more, flying all over the world, bringing sick people home for travel insurance companies. So through personal travel and through my work as an air ambulance nurse, I've been to 143 countries now. So I think there's 198 in the world. I've got about 3/4 of them covered. I got to experience, areas I probably never would have seen as a tourist. I got to sort of do what I call two-bit brownie tourism, where I was never in a place for very long that I could explore everything, but I usually had a day or two on the ground that I could go see something and, learn about a different city or a different culture. I also
Yeah.
made a lot of connections at that time. So in 2016, I formed a company called 2014, I formed a company called Going Home Medical. I scaled that to an acquisition in 2016. That's how my family and I ended up coming to the United States. And I'm originally from the Toronto area. When I sold the business, it was to a conglomerate in Florida. And we packed up and moved down to South Florida to run that business for 5 years. Working as an employee, working within that structure didn't really sit well. So I left in 2020. I left that position in the middle of the pandemic and started Odin. That through the connections, both as an air ambulance nurse and through Going Home, I had a number of connections within military networks and insurance networks that needed case management, predominantly for Defense Base Act claims.
So do you enjoy meeting people, or you do it for work?
Oh, I absolutely enjoy meeting people. That I'm a firm believer that your net worth is tied to your network, and every conversation that you had can lead to some opportunities.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting.
it's been a wild ride. So we started servicing the Defense Base Act clients. We brought on one of the largest security companies in the world as their main medical provider. We now work with, I think, almost every insurer that's working within the defense base market. These are non-combat, non-enlisted participants that are working ancillary to the U.S. Army. So it could be food service workers, could be carpenters, construction workers, security guards, anyone that's not actually a soldier that's working in a militarized zone. So it's similar to like a workers' compensation, where we're managing long-term injuries, doing risk mitigation on behalf of our clients to provide legal medical opinions for their litigation. And then this past June, we bought medical services for veterans, a program. We've rebranded it called Shield of Odin, and we provide nexus letters, DBQs, and help veterans with getting medical evidence to bolster their disability claims. And we finished that acquisition on the 6th of June last year. So.
All right, interesting. And I see that the nature of your work, like it deals with people being injured, vulnerable, and far from home. What's the hardest part of carrying that responsibility?
I think for myself and my staff, the biggest logistical challenges is time change differences. That we're communicating with physicians, facilities, claimants that may be 8 hours ahead, that may be 12 hours ahead. Trying to coordinate on any given day, we may have appointments in 6 or 7 different countries. That staying organized and staying with a very thoughtful process of how to manage these claims is a challenge.
It's a challenge. That seems a lot. And I'm just wondering, do you believe in hard work?
No one gets anywhere without hard work. That anyone that starts a business gives up the security of a salary for unlimited upside and the ability to foster something and grow something. And if you want it to grow into something that's meaningful, no one gets there without work. That this get rich quick and life is easy, it's a complete fallacy. That if you're not willing to put in the work and the long hours and raise a company like you would raise a child, you're never going to see success.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So how many hours in a day do you work? Like what is your work routine or schedule?
I usually start my day, 7-ish in the morning, and I'll usually shut up my laptop 7-ish at night. There's diversions throughout the day to take care of my children and, do things of that nature to get them to their sporting events or the various
Mm.
clubs that they're part of. I'm fortunate that I have the flexibility to sort of dictate my own schedule, but most days I put in about 12 hours of work.
Wow. So does it affect your personal life, like your family life, your time with your children or your partner or your family in general?
Sure, I'm sitting right now as CEO of two separate companies that, you have to make the choice that if you want those companies to succeed, that sometimes you're going to have to make sacrifices in your personal life. That, sometimes you're not going to be able to join the event or, something that's happening that other people are excited about. Sometimes you're going to have to, miss some things with your children that you genuinely want to be there for, but there's pressing needs that need to be dealt with. And, that's what pays the bills. That's what keeps a house over our head and food in our mouths. So sometimes you need to make that choice. And it's not always easy. That when I started going home in 2014, for the first 2 years of my daughter's life, I mostly saw her looking over the top of my laptop. That I missed a lot of moments that I would have liked to have been a part of, but it's brought us to a pretty comfortable life here. So
Yeah. So you mean it's a trade-off between your business and your, you know, the kind of salary job you were into? Because if you are leaving that job and going into the business, then you need to sacrifice some part of life.
sure, with a job, you've got a schedule. You got a time that you start, you got a time that you're done, and you're basically exchanging your time for money. That's not necessarily how it works when you're running a business. There's a lot of people that depend on me to pay their salaries, but they work as a salary for me and in exchange of time for money. If I don't do everything possible to make the business successful, not only am I failing myself and my family, I'm failing the employees that work under me that count on this job to pay for their bills and their mortgages.
Yeah. So, how did your business change you as a person and not as a leader?
Um, I think, the more you get into the competitiveness of business and working within these spheres, that you have to grow in a professional sense, that each industry, each business has a certain vernacular or language that you need to learn. It doesn't matter what the industry is, that, each has those own nuances of speak. And, as you're competing and as you're trying to stand out, I do think, running a business hardens you somewhat. That you have to have the ability to make tough choices, and you have to have the sort of steadfastness to be able to make decisions that impact the business and impact its performance and impact your employees.
Yeah.
And, any team's only as good as its captain. That if I'm not managing the company well, those that are working under me, don't have the direction that they need in order for us to succeed as well. That
Mm.
it means, the sort of carefree life that I lived in my 20s of taking care of sick people and flying around and, spending my life as a perpetual tourist was easier than it is having the responsibilities to be running two separate companies
Yeah.
and to make them run as a well-oiled machine.
So, do you ever regret anything, or do you miss those days when you were more carefree, and now it's like more of responsibility of running a company and meeting people's expectations?
I don't think regrets the right word. I've been very blessed and very fortunate, and I'm very proud of the things that I've been able to achieve. That I understood the assignment, as the old cliche says, that I wanted to grow something, I wanted to build something, I wanted something that had some sense of legacy to it. And
Yeah.
I believe that I've achieved that. And my grandfather is tattooed on my arm, and sort of one of the, I guess, things that drives me is the thought that I've built a life that I think he would have been proud of.
Yeah. So when you look at Odin Industries, what are you most proud of?
I think for a little boutique consulting shop to start up, I had left my position and started Odin Industries on my couch. For us, within a year, to land one of the largest security companies in the world as a client, it is a big feather in our cap. That we've had year over year growth of over 50% since then. That I can look at the organization and go, we've built something. We've built something tangible, and we've built something that's necessary for our clients and continue to perform in a way that meets their expectations. And probably another accomplishment I'm very proud of is that the acquisition that we did in June, that we've reached enough financial success that we could go out and buy another business to expand into an entirely different market. And rather than a small consulting shop, that we now have a portfolio of companies that suit a number of different needs that can grow independent of each other and benefit the holding company that holds them all as a whole. It's kind of a cool thing that we had very, very significant success in the insurance and defense-based market case management side, and to now take on this completely diametrically opposed business that focuses on veterans healthcare, and that it's growing at a rapid rate and becoming known within the industry is pretty cool. We've achieved some pretty cool things. So.
Yeah. So you are in a kind of business where you are responsible for people's safety, for their health. So do you think sometimes it gets a little bit more challenging, because obviously we don't like to see people in danger or in any kind of health trouble or unsafe. So don't you think it's too much a responsibility, when we are responsible for people's lives and health and safety?
To some extent, I think my medical background makes you, I don't know if numb's the right word to it, but becoming overly emotionally invested in the health situations becomes a detriment to your job. That if every time you saw a crisis or every time you saw a tragedy that you weren't able to perform, then being in an emergency room nurse is probably not the career for it. That
Yes.
everyone that comes into an emergency room is having the worst day of their life. That whether it's a broken finger or a gunshot wound, everyone there is having a really, really bad day and looking for you to fix it. That it becomes almost sort of systematic of learning those medical skills to help improve their health without allowing yourself to become too emotional about it, where it's a detriment to be able to complete your job.
Yeah. Yeah. So the nature of the business is I would say that is very different from the rest of the businesses. I meet a lot of people on this podcast and even otherwise. And this is what you do is is directly related to this kind of situation where people can be in danger and people can be in the emergency rooms, as you said. So can you recall any specific event or any specific case that was biggest challenge for you?
From Odin Industries side, we work for the employer about 99% of the time. So if you're looking in a sort of tangible retail sense, the product we sell is risk mitigation. that we want those that have legitimate compensation claims to get access to care and have a cohesive plan to get them back in to work at whatever capacity they are maximally able to heal. I'm also responsible to my end clients, the insurance companies, to identify things like fraud or malingering that can risk their finances and their investment within the portfolio. So tangibly, that's the product that we sell. From a challenging case standpoint, often these are long-term management. They're not like a one-day emergency room visit like my nursing days. It's management of injuries or illnesses that are work-related that could last for years. So I would say one of the most challenging cases that I can think of was a contractor that went swimming somewhere in Africa. The country escapes me, but went swimming somewhere in Africa and developed a spinal parasite. That left him with problems using his legs, problems with bodily function. He was a young guy. He was in his 30s, and we managed his care for years to try and improve this. That he made the mistake of going swimming somewhere where he shouldn't. And you're looking at somebody that had their whole life ahead of them, that they're in their late 20s when you're just starting to build who the person is that you become, and has this catastrophic thing from something as benign as swimming that is going to impact his life for the remainder of his life. That was a tough one, because you would be managing his medical care, but as you would speak to him, he would sometimes get weepy and sometimes get emotional that everything changed because of this problem that was in his spine that there was no cure for. So that was a tough one that stayed with me a lot. And I think it was because I had more personal interaction with him than a lot of the others. That we've reached the stage in the business now where my role is more sales and strategy. I'm responsible for growing the company, keeping its finances in orders. I'm not doing the tacit nurse case management as much as I once did. So in a way, it's almost easier that I'm not directly involved in the medical care anymore, that I'm working the boardrooms and the conference floors to try and drum up new business or meet with existing clients and see how things are with our relationship with them. That it's different. That my role now is more corporate and finance driven.
Yeah. So related to Odin Industries, do you have any fears?
I'm not one that really is scared of much of anything. That I think that served me very well in business. That I'm not one that lets fear make any decisions for me, be it in business or be it in the personal life. That sometimes you have to be bold. Sometimes you have to, reach out and take something that you want. I've always been fortunate enough that I have the ability to do that.
Yeah. So you seem to be a very ambitious person. I'm just wondering, what are you building in the next 3 years?
My ultimate goal would be to bring the portfolio of companies to a point of a significant sale, and then look at what life would be, outside of the CEO role. Whether that's expanding my current board work. I sit on a number of boards right now, whether it's, I don't want to go play Parcheesi and golf. I think there's always going to be some sort of work component to it, but I ultimately want to build something that's of financial value enough that will set up my family, with that sort of generational wealth that we all dream of, and pursue other interests outside of that. The old American commercial adage of freedom 55, sounds intriguing. That getting myself to the point that I can enjoy life on my own terms
Yeah.
is a very nice thought. So
Yeah. So there's going to be a retirement or no?
as I say, if I retire, I don't think it's going to be sitting in a chair watching TV, but
Vacation? You like to travel?
I do like to travel. That at one point in my life when I was flying for a living, it was kind of like a mailman going for a walk when I would take a personal trip because I spent my entire life taking trips. Now that I'm traveling less than I was in my 20s, I like to be able to go places and actually have the time to explore. I like to see new cultures, and I'm not one that goes to a resort and stays there the entire time. That if I go somewhere, I want to experience what life is like in that place, meet people, taste the food, um, get a sense of the culture. That's the best part of travel to me.
Yeah. So are you a foodie?
Absolutely. That one of my favorite cities in America is New Orleans, and I think one of the main reasons that I love New Orleans is it's the best city in the country for food. So
Oh, really? Okay. All right, this is interesting. Ryan, I would like to play a game with you now just to lighten things up. It's called This or That, and I would give you two choices, and you just need to pick one and just go by the instinct, and you don't really need to think much about it. Are you ready?
sure.
Get ready for the ultimate challenge, this or that. Choose fast, trust your instincts, and let's go.
Okay, early mornings or late nights?
Late nights.
Silence or music?
Music.
Work or vacation?
Work.
City or nature?
City.
Reading or learning by doing?
Reading.
Thinking it through or acting fast?
Acting fast.
Talking it out or sitting with it?
Talking it out.
Control or letting go?
Control.
Responsibility or freedom?
Freedom.
Safe life or adventure?
Adventure.
Love that. So you played really well. And why we play this game is because it helps us understand you better and understand like why you do what you do, right? So this is interesting. And my next question to you is this, that if your life were a movie, which we believe that every life is a movie, so what would be the title of your movie?
Son of Odin.
And why that?
I named both my son and my company after Odin of the Norse mythology. That the story of Odin, the pursuit of wisdom, the incredible losses, incredible victories always sort of resonated with me. That it's my son, his middle name is Odin. I named the company that, and that was sort of built on a belief that in many ways my life has sort of mirrored the fables of him. And he's left a lasting legacy that we still talk about today, and ultimately that's what I want to do as well.
So if you were to rate your life on the scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate?
I'd say 9.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think there's always room for improvements in
Yeah.
anyone's life. I think the pursuit of perfection is never fully achieved, but I live a very blessed life. So.
Awesome. So if you need to leave the world with one message, what would that be?
That's if you want to achieve something, that take the action to do it and understand the responsibility that comes with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would like to add that don't blame people. Like everything happens for a reason, and just take the accountability of whatever you do, and forever, whatever goes wrong, whatever goes right. Like we are responsible or accountable for everything in our life. So don't just blame people about things. Just this is just like I would like to add to what you just said.
And I think you're very right in that thought that, blame doesn't solve anything.
Yeah.
Lack of accountability creates a ton of problems and will follow you throughout life. Blaming people destroys relationships, it can destroy companies, and it really doesn't solve anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Ryan, if people would like to follow the rest of your movie, how can they do that? How they can connect with you?
Sure. So for Odin Industries, operations at odinindustriesllc.com is the direct email. Odinindustriesllc.com is the website. My Instagram is Odin_CEO. Odin's is Odin_Industries, I believe. For Shield of Odin, shieldofodin.com or support@shieldofodin.com. We have a pretty significant Facebook and Instagram presence with both companies. We have a upcoming major newspaper full page ad coming out for Memorial Day for Shield of Odin. That's it's a national newspaper, and there's no better day for veteran services than to be in the Memorial Day edition. So we're pretty excited about that. We're in talks of maybe starting our own podcast now. So maybe next time we speak, that will be something that we can discuss when we get that actually launched. But
That's interesting. All the best for that.
yeah, we're looking at doing something, showing and highlighting different organizations that are helping veterans in various capacities.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Ryan, thank you for your time. And I love the chat I had with you today.
I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much.
This is The Corporate Life. More stories, more insight, more truth. Until the next episode, stay curious. Don't forget to subscribe.